We always end up talking about Home Alone, some way, somehow.
It is, to me, the quintessential Christmas movie from childhood. Like, it's...
Right. I watched it on VHS when I was a kid, over and over and over. It came out when we were
I saw it in the
5.
theaters.
Yeah, I did too,
saw it in the
actually.
theater.
Yeah. Well,
did not.
because remember, it came out, it was one of the first huge family movies that came out during a holiday break.
Yeah.
And that's when studios were like, holiday breaks. We got to hit that.
Yep.
Everyone wants to get the kids out of their house. They're sick of staring at each other.
Something for mom and the kids to do while dad is abusing everybody.
Well, dad is drinking at night and working during the day.
Yeah, I had it on VHS. I remember I wore the tape out, loved the movie. Now I have it on Blu-ray, and I've watched it a number of times. This year we rewatched it attentively, because it's hard to watch attentively a movie you've seen that many times. We watched it on a 65-inch screen on Blu-ray attentively. It's a bizarre film in a lot, and I know it's like kind of popular to like try to like adult it up a little bit. There was this year Macaulay Culkin came back and did a little short film where he plays Kevin McAllister and he's all messed up and stuff. But there are bizarre things about the movie throughout. For instance, nothing but fake plants in the entire home.
Is that true?
Poinsettias and various like ficuses and like viney plants in every single room on every surface. And if there's not a fake plant, there's a picture of a plant. There's like some still life.
Strange.
And really nothing to steal at all.
Why couldn't they steal things with Kevin in the house? What was this 10-year-old going to do?
Just push them aside. I also, it's unclear why that house is the Silver Tuna. Like once it looks too risky for the burglars, they really should just.
And exactly.
there's a house
no
right
other
next door.
houses to choose from.
They've gone to like 6 other houses. He like plotted out
all in the same
and
neighborhood
scoped
too,
out.
and no cops are looking around for these guys. They just keep going house to house, turning the water on.
There are lots of as I was
van too.
yeah, it's just like OK Cleaners or something. As I was watching it, I was realizing all of the things that I misunderstood when I was a kid. Though that's what you learn in adulthood. You're like, oh yeah, I received the information like this. Like for instance, I didn't understand why they didn't want to hit Kevin with their truck. Like, remember there's a scene where they almost hit him and they're like, holy crap, like, you got to watch out, kid. I'm like, well, you're burglars. Why not kill him? I thought that once you were a villain.
In Frankie's childhood head, all crime was the same.
There's one class of crime.
Well, I mean, they really,
Like whether you stole cable or murdered a child, it was the same.
they really, at the end of Home Alone 1, were willing to kill Kevin. They wanted to kill him.
Well,
Had they gotten a hold of him, what were they going to do to
They were
him?
gonna torture him. He says he's gonna bite off all of his fingers.
Vicious stuff.
You know what? Let's talk about the ending of that movie. You're Harry or Marv. You've been caught. You're tarred and feathered. Bits of you are burnt. you're in
Your head has been caught on fire by a blowtorch.
There's plenty of evidence if the cops look right this second at all of it.
Yeah, so
Why didn't they tell the cops what
they
happened?
finally kill Kevin. They're in the house. They have all these bodily injuries going on. What do they steal at this point? How much stuff can they get out of that house now without
the house is
calling any
ruined.
attention?
Well, at some point it turns into an ego thing.
Yeah.
At some point it's like
This is the worst bandits.
we can't honestly get beaten up by a child. But they Kevin's plan doesn't really work for me. I guess he decides that he's gonna have this house of mayhem where he kills them or really badly hurts them. Although there's a few times where he really risked killing them. Quite a few times.
The paint cans on the stairwell.
Several facial fractures, cervical spine injuries.
Let's not even talk about the second movie where he throws a brick from the rooftop.
Right on his head.
Yeah,
5 of them.
Intracranial hemorrhages.
10 stories tall. He just killed a little woman.
In broad daylight.
He's got pretty good aim.
That movie, I often think about where I'm like, can you imagine being his Uncle Rob and Aunt Georgette? They come home from vacation. They've been renovating, and there's been terrorism in this house.
It's ruined.
Or you're the construction contractor, and you show up to work on Monday.
Your tools are
and
all
you're
ruined.
like, call the police right now. Call them right now. We don't need to look like we did this.
At what point does the Department of Child Services come in too when your parents have left you mistakenly? Twice.
That scene in the second one where they're reporting it again. And if I was them, I'd just be pushing a panic button. These fucking
See
people.
the
Deploy
YouTube video
TCF.
where they there's a doctor that classifies every injury and like how many times people died in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just keep counting. Marv is dead.
Marv is dead.
Harry is
Like,
dead.
in number 2, they finally are like, all right,
dead.
we're just going to break that barrier from reality to
Just
fiction.
cartoonishness.
When,
Let him be a skeleton.
Yeah. For a brief moment, he's just a skeleton.
But seriously, why did in the first one, why did Harry and Marv not report to the police? Which is they're already in prison now. Why not just tell them like seriously? There's a kid in there though with weapons.
But what is it really going to do? Like they're probably like I mean at that point they're breaking and entering. He's technically defending against trespassers. There's no crime Kevin's committed.
Just in case you can fuck him over in some small way.
The better question is, why doesn't Kevin go to the police and just say, hey,
at any point in
home
time,
alone, there's 2 burglars?
Well, a friend of mine tried to explain that to me. He said, well, he was trying to he thought he wished his family away, and he was trying to maintain his independence. He didn't want somebody coming in and ripping him from this giant rich home. Although, how long did Buzz's life savings last you?
How long can you get away with that?
well, I have a different idea. So they're supporting like 6 kids, these McAllisters.
And like an aunt and uncle, and everybody lives there, right?
Basically, there's some white collar crime going on, and the McAllisters have taught Kevin to be afraid of the police
think this was an inside
and not
job?
go to them.
In 2 movies, we never learn what these people do. Real estate agents? That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Or a lawyer. I thought in one of the movies
think
he does mention his profession.
Really?
Father.
Definitely not Catherine O'Hara.
Pull up the Home Alone Wikipedia.
Homopedia?
Homopedia.
A few other things that I never realized until later. There's a joke with John Candy later in the movie where he's like, I've never left my kid alone, no. But one time I left my kid...
The Polka King.
Yeah, the Polka King.
Of the Midwest.
Of the Midwest. He's like, but one time I left my kid in a funeral home all day and he didn't speak for 7 weeks. And it's really funny.
Some terrible parents.
It's obviously a comedy. But when I was a kid, I was like, oh, this is a serious story he's telling. It was probably improv. He was probably just fucking around. But, things like that. Nina really was laughing really hard at this part. We got to this, there's a scene in the movie when the mom has decided she's going to split from the rest of the family and go try to get Kevin on her own. And they start playing...
She's going to wait around for a flight to open
Right.
up, for a seat to open up at the airport.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to stay with the family in France.
But the Polka Kings are heading there, and that means it's by car still not that unreasonable to drive. Had they just not spent all day in the airport, they just rented a car.
fucking off.
Yeah.
They could have drove themselves.
That's when she gets back to the U.S., but when they're still in France... Like there's a part where she decides she's going to wait for a flight to try to get back to the U.S. They're going to go hang out in France and eat shrimp by the by the tree.
That's true, actually. Yeah. Remember Uncle Frank's like, attention.
And the aunt is like, Frankos are for later. You're being a jackass.
And that's Aunt Georgette, who later her house would be
Destroyed.
shredded to pieces.
Not a single family member or a friend in the area that you can call and be like, hey, my kid was left at home. Can you go check in on him?
They try. The movie goes to incredible lengths to try to explain every single one of those.
Like the passport got covered in milk, and so did his ticket, so it got thrown out. So they didn't realize they had an extra ticket.
They're incompetent cops who aren't doing
And the
anything
Prius
about
drive by and look for him or something and knock and he doesn't
Terrible
answer.
cops.
Yeah.
it. We have to talk about this. The Shovel Slayer. Well, so let me finish the other thought first. They're listening to like holiday. There's a scene with holiday music. It's like bells will be ringing.
She's hugging all the family goodbye because they're
she's
gonna
hugging
go.
them all goodbye, and it's kind of almost like a silent scene to music. And I was telling you, I was like, when I was a kid, even though this is only 3 shots and maybe 15 seconds, I was like, this is the worst scene in the movie. I can't stand it. This is a crappy part.
He was explaining it to me as like he was bored and confused. He was like, "Why are they all hugging in the airport? When are we gonna get back to
the
Kevin?"
house where the kid's shaving. The Shovel Slayer. That's a cute cat. The Shovel Slayer wants to be taken seriously and be respected and not be feared. Why
It
then?
sounds like he knows Harry and Marv are on the property. He's seeing it all. He only saves Kevin at the last moment, but he watched the whole thing go down.
And by the way, I wish I had a clip. When he attacks them with the shovel, it just cuts to a different guy. It's just another guy.
Quite directly.
Same thing with when Kevin is on like the handlebars going
zip
down.
line, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a grown woman. In HD, you've got to see it. It's just like
Whoever the stunt people are, just don't look anything like themselves.
it's genius, and she's just in Kevin's clothing.
Generous.
She's dancing. Well, if this guy doesn't want to be feared, can you tell me why? First of all, he comes into a convenience store with chains drooping on the floor, and then he shoves down on the table a wounded hand.
While somebody else is checking out. Who does that?
No, I mean, how much of this is supposed to be through Kevin's prism of like the way he sees the world? But what is not up for interpretation is that hand is severely wounded. And you know it because later when they're in the church and they're having a heart-to-heart, it cuts to them shaking each other's hands, and he's got a huge Band-Aid on his hand. They never explain why.
It was a real life incident.
I think what they were trying to do was say that he was going to the pharmacy to buy Band-Aids.
Oh, his hand's all fucked.
But I don't know why we would need to explain that or why he would have to be so just horrific.
I also don't know why it took him 5 minutes to say hello. He just stares at somebody until he finally, like... And I also do want to know, like, what is it that made him and his son stop talking?
Why would you use your wounded hand to slam down money? Why wouldn't you use the other hand?
He doesn't slam down money, he just slams the hand down.
Oh, I thought he was...
Even more haunting.
Even more sinister.
Kevin was actually in line doing a transaction. And he decides to slam his hand down. No, but you know how in the story he had like his son is estranged from him. They're not talking. And Kevin's like, you should talk to him anyway. What happened? Do you think his son is gay?
I'm guessing the son is a junkie.
Well, at the end,
DJs in an alley.
you see the son with the wife and the daughter.
Right. That's us slamming the hand down.
That's all he does.
For those not watching that video.
I'm thinking he had another son who the grandfather left in a car as an infant and he boiled to death, and that's why they didn't talk to him.
That's
That
dark.
could be. We had a little disagreement. He decided to not speak with
A
me.
little something happened. Minor bump in the road.
I love that Kevin doesn't ask for details. It's like, so what'd you fuck up? My hand.
Well, first off,
I have not seen Home Alone 3, 4, or 5.
it sort of feels like Land Before Time.
Right.
Those movies.
Yes.
The first couple.
Land Before
came
Time's
out, and
17.
after that, they just kept coming out, and nobody knew about them.
And they stopped,
Not a soul
they stopped
watched them.
numbering them
Yeah, after a while.
as to obscure what's going on. Land Before Time holiday heist. So after Macaulay Culkin, of course, is the landmark of the show.
Sure.
After he left the franchise, they made a third one just a couple of years after that, in the 90s still.
I watched that one.
Never seen it. Any good?
You're missing out.
Piece of garbage, I bet. I think the plot is the kid is sick, right? He's sick at home, and the so it's a little bit more plausible, actually. Maybe the screenwriting's... Well, John Hughes wrote it.
It's been a long time, but yes, I believe he was sick at home.
And
Number
then-
4, I never heard of. And number
With
5,
like
I-
polio.
A group of multi-gendered crooks show up.
Multi-gendered.
Well, that's when they start mixing in like women into the crooks.
Oh, women crooks.
Cross-dressers.
Some transsexuals.
Yeah.
Fold some transsexuals into the story.
Weave them in.
Work them.
Really build those characters.
Why do they have to be men? Why can't... gender's not a binary. And then I thought that... So it should be noted, the third one, not starring Kevin McAllister, not starring Macaulay Culkin. The crooks are not Harry and Marv. It is basically a reboot.
A reboot.
It's basically another Home Alone story.
Now, 4 and 5, do they follow the same formula, or
This is where things get fucked. Home Alone 4 came out in 2010, like not long ago. It was straight to DVD, and the main character, is Kevin McAllister, and he's like 9, meaning he's like younger than he was in Home Alone 2, and it's a different kid. And the plot is, I think, I've never seen the movie, but the plot is that the parents get divorced. And then Marv shows up to rob them, and Marv has a girlfriend. That's the plot. But it's not Harry.
The plot is Marv has a girlfriend. I would like to see that movie where they're
So
just
just like
dating.
a total parallel universe, where this time
Where
Cameron's
things didn't work out.
What would have happened?
Yeah, Peter McAllister was like, "Look, I'm not taking your shit anymore. You're not leaving our kid alone anymore." And he's trying to get the kids away
You're so
from
irresponsible.
trying to get the kids away from Kate McAllister.
It'll be about 5 minutes in this chalk.
The Shovel Slayer takes them away.
Drags
Shoots his own hand first.
corpses.
Then, much to my shock, there was a 5th Home Alone movie. I believe this is starring a completely different kid, Well, of course it is. It's not Macaulay Culkin.
I believe.
Don't quote me.
But what I mean by that is it's not Kevin McAllister.
Oh.
It is once again a reboot of some kind. It is a straight.
What happens if it's a reboot of number 3 now, since they skipped that? It's that kid.
Okay, yeah.
He's going to stay homesick again.
never
But this
grew
time
up.
his parents are divorced.
And Marv shows up with a transsexual Harry. And the story just keeps folding in.